Hello and welcome to TGS with me, Jonny. Today we're going to be looking at this. This is a Francisco Sarriugarte, a Spanish over and under of fairly little consequence, but pretty exciting nonetheless. Let's go. So starting at the back of this gun, what we have is a quite unexciting black pad with a little white line. You have the sort of basket weave finish on the back there and two crosshead screws. It is hand finished onto the gun, but that does not necessarily make it exciting. The wood is a grade 1 piece of lacquer finished walnut that is hand engraved or hand checkered in a very coarse pattern, but it's actually quite nicely done. It's in flat point, coarse flat point. Not nasty at all. The lines of this gun are just extremely thin, actually, and having spent most of the morning and most of my life looking at modern day sporters and such, this has a much nicer feel. You also notice the radius of the grip is not much. If you put a little round pommel on there, you could call it a Prince of Wales because it is sort of a Prince of Wales. Both sides are fairly similar in terms of unexciting woodness. Now we move on to the action. So this is a F. Sarriugarte action. There is thousands of other guns with this same action style, made both in Spain and in Italy. Obviously made in Ibar, it's a nice little Basque over and under. Anyway, I'm going to stop hand holding because actually this is harder than it looks. So as we can see, this action is a relatively plain one. You'll see these with a variety of different grades. In fact, we should call him Francisco, it's easier, isn't it? Francisco made a variety of guns. You'll see box locks and side locks and over and unders. And as I said, this action has been attributed to him. This particular one is case colour hardened, although I would have thought that's chemically done. Over your hinge pins here, you have a little floral stamp. You have is that hand engraved? It is a hand pushed out border. It is not a refined looking gun, but there are more refined ones out there. If we pop it open, so it's a bit more handleable, what we can do is actually show you how this action works. And they are so very, very common. Now, we're not going to go inside this one today, but you have a single selector at the back there. This particular gun is double trigger. There are single trigger ones about as well. As you push the top lever, it is locked in place by this large locking bolt at the top, a cross-locking top bolt, which basically means this gun is a DT10. There you go. But you can buy it for 100 quid. There you go. I've literally just broken the world. No, I haven't really, but it does use a similar locking design. So in these two holes at the back here, these two lumps from the barrels fall. And then this slightly tapered or slightly chamfered bolt head falls over the top of them and locks them in place. It's a very simple design. You have two trunnions on the inside, two little hinge pins which hook onto the barrels. It is not a complex design of over and under. In fact, it is very simple. Your whole trigger plate locks in, which gives you a nice, strong and simple action design. Doesn't really bear a lot more talk than that, really. This particular one is a non-ejector. Again, you'll find ejectors out there as well. But as far as I can see, this guy actually designed this type of action, which has been used by many others, and we'll probably look at a couple of the other similar designs over the course of the next few weeks. Forend is a rounded American style forend with a little lift latch in there. A very simple design. If you look at the forend loop, that is also of an extremely simple design. It is obviously a fixed choke with fixed mid-ribs, solid mid-ribs, and a slightly vented top rib, which comes out at 7mm with a very interesting checkered pattern on it. It looks like tyre tread. I quite like it. It's quite agricultural. It's quite simple. So, who was Francisco Sarriugarte? I suppose that is the question on everyone's minds. Interesting, before we go into history, on the barrel it says F. Sarriugarte, F.L. Giobar, España. Yeah. Interesting. Anyway, so Francisco Sarriugarte, he actually worked for AYA back in the 50s, before in the mid-50s going off to set up for himself. He set up with himself and his two sons, building guns in a small workshop, or a medium-sized workshop, all at the bench. So pretty much entirely handmade, hand-finished guns. I know it's probably maybe taken offensive by the wrong people, but it's interesting to see how somebody's entire gun-making career, life and finesse is always judged by their lowest point, or that's not really the point. It's interesting to see that somebody who produced many thousands of guns is just kind of confined to a name that people go, oh, it's just entirely slightly average Spanish stuff. When actually, Francisco Sarriugarte had an amazing reputation as a side lock builder. So yeah, he actually was a sidelock action builder and used to build stuff for other people. And if you see some of the top end Sarriugarte sidelocks, they do rival AYAs and the like for quality of finish and build. However, you can pick them up for relatively little because they're not around anymore. They kind of wound down between 1982 and 1986. When Sarriugarte was very heavily involved in the institution of Diarm, which we'll do another video on at some point, which was the conglomerate of Spanish gunmakers and kind of, strangely, the end of individual mini Spanish gunmakers. And we discussed that during the Sarriugarte video as well, is that actually all these 20 gunmakers came together, lasted a very few years, and then fell apart and left Spain with like 4 or 5 gun makers instead, which was really sad. Anyway, Sarriugarte apparently or seemingly retired after the whole Diarm incident. And interesting about Diarm as well, when you look at their over and under, it is a carbon copy of this, except usually shiny, silver and engraved. Nonetheless, an interesting thing. His sons actually went on to go to start Keyman. Keyman being one of the finest Spanish guns out there, which is a Boss style gun. Wonderful. And that is pretty much the short history of Sarriugarte. So what to make of this little gun? Well, it's difficult, isn't it? In a world where actually a over and under non-ejector with double triggers is viewed as basically scrap, it's hard not to look at this with some relevant disdain. But it doesn't deserve it, because it's actually really nicely put together, as much as it is a simple and basic gun. The grip, the spec, the lines, everything about this gun actually does sniff of a bit of quality of thought, if not perhaps expense of build. The wood may be simple, but it's good quality, and it seemingly has stood the test of time. Given that this is a minimum of 40-something years old, well, it really isn't doing bad at all. In the hand, it feels really nice. The geometry of both the forend being that little bit meatier and the grip being that semi-Prince of Wales, apart from the fact that it's kind of a child-sized stock, it presents really very nicely and swings very nicely as well. You know, there's nothing horrible or clunky or nasty about this. I suppose that's the fascinating thing, isn't it? Is as much as it is cheaply finished, the concept and the quality of build is still there. They haven't spent thousands of hours, you know, sticking lipstick on a pig, but rather they just haven't put their horse in a nice coat. It is a quality gun, just not a particularly pleasant looking one. Not that I think it's bad anyway. And I think maybe that's something that we can take away from this, is this might be a simple gun and it might be a pretty worthless gun, but it is nonetheless more hand built than anything you're going to buy today, which isn't necessarily a good thing, but it's still nice. Just because it is average and unexciting doesn't mean that it is not nice. And I don't know if there's any takeaway from that. I don't know if there's any takeaway from that whatsoever. But I kind of find it hard I find it sad that somebody's sat there deriding this as just a piece of Spanish junk, and I'm guilty of that as much as anybody. But this is still a beautiful thing in what it is. It's just a cheaply built beautiful thing. And that's kind of weird that I'm actually don't dislike it, because it is technically, in modern parlance, junk. So, hey, guys, take care. Thank you very much for watching. I think it's a confusing one. Yeah, you know, it's cheap and it's a bit nasty and it's a bit rubbish. It's basically what I'm saying here. But that doesn't mean that it's not nice and can't have a little soft spot in your heart. And it's guns like this, having one of these in your cabinet or in your house, actually is not a bad thing. We can all own a nice Browning or Beretta Silver Pigeon 525, 725, 690. But I would like to think this probably has more handcrafting and more soul and a little bit more story than those kind of things, as much as it might not be as proficient a clay killing or bird killing machine. But that doesn't matter, because it's, like I said, there's something about the lines of this gun that is just lovely. Guys, take care, goodbye, and, well, be excellent to one another. We'll see you soon.